Welcome to another episode of Top Lines and Tales, the nation's favourite livestock podcast. And as always, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Harborough, for their continued support. And don't forget, Harborough's are suppliers and manufacturers of high-quality nutrition and nutritional advice. This week on Top Lines and Tales, we go to County Clare in the district of Munster in Southern Ireland to talk to perhaps one of the best stockmen in Ireland and maybe one of the cheekiest ones as well there, Cathal O'Meara. Cathal, welcome to Top Lines and Tales.
Thank you, Andy, and thanks very much for having me on the podcast. It's great to be asked to come on to these kind of things, I suppose, really.
You're down there just north of Limerick there and Munster country, a rugby man?
Out in East Clare there, yeah. We'd be all kind of hurling out our country. There'd be no rugby down our country, yeah, but we'd be Munster. We'd be out in the Munster region there, yeah.
And I mentioned one of the best showmen maybe in Ireland, but certainly one of the most popular. And you seem to, every show I go to, you seem to be there, and you always seem to be on the winning end of seem to be on the head of the right cattle anyway. I'll say that. And
yeah,
you've had a hell of a year.
I always like to try to take the pick of the best of them anyway, Andy. But it's very easy for me to go to the halter when people have all the work done at home. My job is very easy. It's the stockmen and stock women at home that do all the work, and just makes my job very simple, doesn't it? Always nice to get something with a bit of style and a bit of flash.
It does, and it does, of course, you're getting on the halter, but you do get in the other end of it as well. We know that. We'll just have a bit of a run through sort of how you got to where you did. You're only a young man. Just tell me how old you are, Cal.
Yeah, I'm 31 and 32 next year, Andy, so we're still we're fresh enough, thank God. But no, I'd have been showing cattle since I'm 10 years of age. But I started at home with my grandfather. He had a little limousine herd there, doing limousines. They're Doonan limousines. And we started out with him, and he was going to just a couple of sales and that. And then we went to the neighbour, Donald Maloney, and he had a show. We did a lot of showing with Donald. We travelled a little bit to the country. And then I suppose I got onto the show scene over in England with Mark Phillips. And kind of took off a lot from there then, really, over with Mark. He got me over a good bit over to do the sales and that. And I love going over and back to England. It's real enjoyment to do them over in England. It's a big job in England, like.
Oh, but let's just go back to those days you say about Donald and with the limousines there, where it got you going, as you said, 10, 12 years old, and in your teens, I suppose, you'd have got into showing those cattle early doors, and a man that was able enough there, but he gave you a chance, I think, didn't he?
Yeah, very, very good to get the chance after all, to be fair to him, but he had very good stock at that time. He bought in a lot of stock from friends around that time, a couple of senior stock bulls, Pasha 08 and Nestor and that. And he gave me my first heifer. She was a Nestor heifer. She was a September-born heifer. I broke her myself and went on to Bandon Show for my first day out. And I actually won. She won her class that day. She won an interbreed champion that day as a September calf for the first show of the year over here. And I went on to win the Young Handlers the same day. My very first day out in the show, I won the Young Handlers.
The Young Handlers, a fantastic institution that it is there, and it's good that Young Handlers maybe gave you a bit of ground. Let's just talk about the Young Handlers for a second, because obviously you'll be involved in putting a little bit back now. We'll carry on through chatting about sort of where you got to, where you went and where you got to. But the Young Handlers now is a fantastic thing, and it's becoming bigger and bigger. I think just not in Ireland, but right across the world, really. The Young Handlers, and it's a great thing that we can all help a little bit of that.
Yeah, well,
good.
If you don't have the youth coming through, Andy, you don't have anything to replace what is there before us and what's there after us, really, is there? So I think it's, if I can in any way, I try to help out at youth development days and go to clipping demonstrations or show demonstrations with the YDPs. And yeah, I do try to help out a bit in that. If you can, it's great to give back because someone has given to us in the past, and it's nice for us to continue on that.
Yeah. Indeed, and say there's youngsters coming through, and that was one of you there, cheeky young chap there, and been coming through the ranks there, and you got to. I'd be right in thinking your uncle and your brother are both being in the limousines as well.
Yeah, I'd have an uncle in the limousines as well, Hubert. Well, he's gone out of limousines now, but I have the brother Dara is big into limousines. Yeah, he's a very, very good lad, and he's a very good man to turn out Cathal. Yeah, the Hurricane limousine herd. So yeah, he's doing a top job there. We got a junior champion in Tullamore this year with his bull, and he sold him in Roscrea. He was reserved junior champion in Roscrea a couple of weeks ago. He got 9,200 from him, I think.
Okay, good trade.
So he had a really good show season with him, and I suppose it's nice to give back to him too, because he'd have taught me a lot of what I know today. So it's nice to do it back for Dara and get the champions with him, kind of thing orientated, doesn't it?
And were you showing that for him?
Oh yeah, I was showing it. Yeah, kind of. We have a bit of banter there, and who's better. But he obviously has put me in the head, so it kind of tells me who's a better showman out of the two of us, Andy.
Well, as I said, you want to watch. That certainly is the case, and yeah, you got started in there, and then obviously working with it with your own cattle, and then yeah, people would have noticed you, I suppose. And did you decide that you're going to set out there and have a career being a showman, get out in amongst it like a lot of youngsters who've not got much behind them, or did it just sort of morph into helping other people out?
Oh, I think it was always kind of my go-to call when I was young. I was hurling and that, and when I got into show scene, then Andy, I didn't want anything else but cattle in my hands.
Hmm.
I left town the hurleys and retired from all that sport and that, and it was just cattle I wanted in after that. To took over from there then really. But no, the cattle, I suppose they're if you're fond with them, it's a very very enjoyable game, isn't it?
Hmm. It is indeed.
It
It
is,
is. I've had my fun out of it as well, so it's good. I mean, I can see me.
yeah, I was sure you have a lot of showing done through the years in Smithfield too, Andy.
I think I can see me as a youngster at your age that out there going there, and as you say, always wanting cattle in your hands, always wanting to show the best and bring them out the best you can. But you mentioned earlier on, it isn't just about being the jockey on the front of the cattle there. It's about the work that goes in behind the scenes. But you're no stranger in that department either. You'd have learnt your spurs, I suppose, learning how to dress the cattle. Where would that education have come from?
Rest of the cattle would have all came from the brother Darragh and Mark Phillips, really. They'd have taught me an awful lot. And you might have been around with Carol Connell in Ireland and lads like that and doing up cattle and maybe going to do sales with them or help them at sales when they were doing sales. And I learned an awful lot from watching them boys. And even the likes of Drew, when I was over in England back the last time, in the last couple of years there, going with Drew, like he's a fantastic, fantastic showman and fantastic man for now cattle. And to watch them boys slipping, if you're like a sponge and soak it in, you'll learn an awful lot off these boys.
Well, very
They're at the
true.
top of their game, like.
Very true. You talk about Drew Hislop, but Drew would be one of the best cattle stockmen, I would say, in Scotland, and you would rival with him as well, and you guys have
No,
worked.
yeah,
Mm.
we've worked together through the past and that, and they're fantastic men at showing cattle. They know the game really, really. They're at it a long time, but I suppose you try to learn from these boys and take a lot from them, don't you?
No, indeed, and hair, of course, is important, as you know in this
Oh,
trade.
hair is
There,
the most important thing on cattle. It's worth a lot more than a ton of feeding, isn't it? An inch of hair is worth a ton of feeding, as they say. But
yeah.
it's very hard to keep them in certain times of year, isn't it? It's a lot of work to keep it.
And have you learned a few bits from a few people how to get that hair on there? Something to share with us?
Yeah, sure. There's lots of different tricks, and everyone has their tricks. But the main trick is just keep washing these cattle and keep even the brother Darren now will be a fierce man for dry combing cattle and just keeping the dead hair pulled out of them. There's nothing better than them blow drying and washing cattle. You're not going to get any better trick.
No, no, right enough. As I said, you've probably heard me say on this. Ian Anderson said to me one day, "You breed it onto them," but I mean, that depends on the breeds that you work with, and as well as the Limousins, you worked a lot with the Angus and different types of cattle. The Angus maybe to the Limousin, but sometimes a bit more hair to go at.
Yeah, sometimes with the Angus and even them Angus, if you get an Angus with a right head and them ears, it's not going to be beat in the shoring, is it? Them ears, if you can get a big Angus with big head and big ears, it's just fantastic. See, it makes the job very easy when
Very
you
true.
bring them into the shoring. If they're cocky, like the judge sees that first, and it's very hard to put them down after that, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, very true, very true. And you're showing over there big shows for you. Would Tullamore would be one of your big shows, I suppose. Would that be the
Yeah,
main one of the main shows in Ireland these days?
Tullamore show is the biggest day in the limousine thing anyway for us. That's where our national show is on, yeah. And as I said, I had overall male champion in the last year, and we had it there with junior and reserve overall male again this year with the Brothers Bowl. So I was showing for Bobby O'Connell last year and I had the Brothers this year. So we had a very, very good run for the last couple of years there, and it's nice to pull out in the big days, isn't it, and get the wins on the big days.
It is, it is. And you mentioned the UK, and I got a list of a few folks that you've shown cattle for, and it reads a bit of a who's who, really. You've got, Tom Bailey is in there, Dr. Tom Bailey, of course, a lot of folks will know, is well known in the Limousins and the Suffolks before him. Dr. Michael Sheehan there, who you were showing for, I know, at the Extravaganza. Shane Murphy, again, Shane, and very able man. You were showing his
Oh,
29,000
he's
pound bull in the Extravaganza.
he's a great fella, really, isn't he? He's a very, very good lad at his job and very able man, and he just seems to bring out the cattle very, very right for me the whole time. And they're in right order when you come to the ring. And he got a fantastic price that day. The atmosphere in the sales ring that day was just absolutely fanatical.
Yeah,
It
phenomenal.
was just, it was absolutely one of the best days I've had out in a long time. It was the ring was hopping, the auctioneer was hopping, and there was roaring and bawling going on, and the bull was just looking his best. He was just on top form, wasn't he? And he went to a very, very good home.
Yeah, they went to a good home, and that good home being well, partly being John Elliott, and there's another man that you've worked for, as John Elliott at Roebuck, one of the most respected cattle breeders in the UK, I would say, and certainly respected Angus breeder.
Yeah, he's
And
another.
you did a bit of work for him too. What's John like to work for?
John's fantastic to work for you. He leaves you to your own devices and he just doesn't interfere with you, lets you work away, which is what you like to be able to do on your days of showing, isn't it?
Hmm.
He's not there. He gets you in to do the job and not tell you what to do with your own job. It's absolutely lovely to work with him, yeah.
And good cattle to work with too, Carl.
Oh, he has some of the tops, hasn't he? He's very, very capable by breeding of these Angus cattle, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah, indeed, indeed. And you've done that for a few times there for John, for sales maybe mainly.
Yeah, I was over with Johnny a few years and we went and we've done the short herd sale again this year when we got out of a short herd from Garden Herd and we went and give him a hand at the sale and we've done a good few Sterlings now, worked with Ian and Logan there, these two stockmen and two very, very nice people to work alongside. It
Hmm.
makes the job very easy to just leave you to your own devices and like anything when you're at the show and they leave you doing up the cattle and they'll do all the hard work behind the scenes and do all the hard work at the bedding and cleaning out the pens and that at the shows. So makes my job very easy.
More than just cleaning out the pens, I think. And I mentioned, top people and bring me around to Mike and Mel Alford. And again, Mike's a perfectionist. I've known Mike since he was a boy and also a youngster anyway. And Mike always has some great cattle and a fantastic eye and a fantastic business as well, hasn't he? And Mike brought you into the team, I think, this last year or so. And again, an honor, I would say, that you've been chosen by somebody like that.
Oh, you could say that, right? Because if you're honoured to be, you're really handpicked when you go to Foxhill Farm, aren't you? It's an amazing place to go down to. They have just such a fantastic setup over there, Mike and Well, and they're lovely, lovely people. They've Mike is a very capable showman, and even to watch Mike clipping cattle is just nice to sit back and watch him clipping the cattle, and you'd learn a lot from him too when you watch it when you watch Mike picking up the clippers.
Mike's still very hands-on. I've had Mike on this podcast. I said I've known Mike a long time, but I've had Mike's still very hands-on, involved in dressing the cattle. I mean, he's always a very good showman when
I,
back in the days of Smithfield, and he still gets in clips of
I,
cattle himself.
I don't know. He's probably going to give out to me for saying this now, and but if you think he's hands on, I didn't see him doing a whole pile on you, but I think Mel does all the work, and Mike likes to sit back and relax now and eat a bit of ice cream.
There you go. You can, I'm sure Mike, if you listen, he'll say differently, but of course he runs a big business as well, so he
Ah,
can,
he's
yeah.
he's a fantastic businessman, and I have a fantastic place, and the hospitality I get every time I go over to Foxhill Farm is second to none. It's absolutely fantastic place to go to work, and they're fantastic people, and they really do look after you when you go to work with them. But it's very easy to go and win with their cattle too. They have some of the best over there, and we've had a fantastic summer winning with them.
Mhm. Yeah, you have. And I think won the Highland Show. Am I right in thinking with Angus this year? Or maybe
He
it
w-
was
would have
certainly a
been
close one.
junior. They were junior champion with the Angus this year, and they had champion last year. We won in Devon. We had an interbreeding Devon County show this year. I was also over for Yorkshire. We had overall champion in Yorkshire with the Angus again. And they're after having a great run. I wasn't over for the calf shows, but they're after having a fantastic run of the calf shows.
Mhm. Yeah. Calf shows is something they've excelled in, and I think that gets back into the winter time with the calf shows are great because you can get a bit more hair on the cattle, and the calf shows are great fun. The calf shows, aren't they? But it's still a very important part of the calendar.
Oh yeah, well sure. It's the real training scene for your calves for next summer, isn't it? It gets them used to it all for next summer. And the thing about it is when you're inside in the mart, it's very easy to bring a calf out. But when you go into the show ring outside in the Highland, that you have a big crowd of people around and an open space, it's nice to have them train going to them shows.
So it's a good training ground, you're right, but it's also a training ground for people to see them as well. I mean, there's very often calves that have been out in these winter calf shows, and yeah, we talk of shows like the Stars of the Future, a great event, and the Angus Calf Show, the one they have up in Aberdeen, and down to Carlisle as well. The great shows that allow these young calves to come out there, but people get to see them. It's a bit of a shop window as well for people looking for the future stuff.
Oh, you could often see people giving as much for a calf there to get shown next summer that you would to previously get by the big animal in the May sales around Carlisle, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Lads getting prepped to buy that show calf for next summer. It's all starting now. You don't just buy that show calf the day before you want to go showing. You buy that 6 months in advance, don't you?
Very much so, and the same with the breeding stock as well. If you've seen a young bull there, if you've seen him early doors, you can see they change a lot when they get older, but they grow back into themselves again, don't they?
Yeah, a man always told me that if you have a calf and if it's very good up to 6 weeks and it loses that again, it'll always come back to whether he's right or wrong. But that man being Willie Smith, so
Mhm.
he's a fairly capable man. And he knows his stuff, so you'd imagine he was right and he'd be right in what he's saying. He reckons that he always said to me that if a calf has it, they'll always have it and it'll always come back to him.
Very wise words and from a wise man, as you said. Yeah, and that is the case. And as I said, see some of these young calves, and they do grow out. They go to a stage. Young bulls, they get to a stage where, and it's difficult, I suppose. The likes of John Elliott, when they sell bulls at 12 months old, it's different to selling a beast at 18 months to keep them going through that length of time. But as you said, they see them as a calf, and then they definitely come back together, don't they?
But it definitely costs an awful lot more money to keep him there that long time, isn't it? It's when you have a bull at 18 months or 18 months old, he's eating an awful lot of grub.
Yeah.
And trying to keep him right, keep his stomach right when you're feeding him all that time, keep his legs right. It's very, very hard. But if you can get a nice touch for a calf at 13 months old, it's nearly the right thing to do in some cases. But some cattle won't mature till they're maybe into 15 or 16, 18 months.
Sure. Sure.
So it's very hard to go selling them at 30 months when they're not ready for sale.
Sure, that's very true. Very true. Different animals for different jobs, but yeah, that's say that there's a lot swinging towards that if they can't sell the younger bulls at home anyway. It's certainly a lot less money needed than it is to run them around, especially the price of feed to run them around to the bigger
And
sales.
even space wise, and I see my own brother. He always likes to sell him at 13 months. I often says to him that, "Oh, you're mad. You should keep him for the March sale." But he says he's gone out of the shed for the winter. You're not feeding an extra amount for the winter.
Mhm.
And you have him. It's very easy. Have him looking at that calfy stage. They have that calf hair. They've that really nice hair. They'll always come out and look very well, won't they?
Indeed, and then get them away. And yeah, that extra feed, as I said, at the price of it now, you could easily be 1,000 or two to get them by the time you get them to that 18 months old. And and let's go on. And Cathal, you were in France. What happened to how did that happen? You were showing cattle in France, you told me that, and for
Yeah, I went over
KBS.
to yeah, I went over to KBS, over to Michael Caval. Michael came over here and he worked with Tynans here. It was the biggest limousine herd in Ireland at the time, and he did his internship over here. And I suppose we made good friends, and he was always on to me that I was very, very good. He actually called me Seamus because they weren't able to pronounce Cahill. So, and I used to always call him Seamus because I couldn't pronounce his name. So he calls me Seamus, and he rings me up one day and he says, Seamus, he says, I want you to come to France over for the Rouge sale to do up the cattle for him. So over in France, it was supposed they were always done up with water and just combed up and maybe not as clipped as tight or that we do it over here. So I sent over about €1,000 worth of products ahead of me. I had about 14 or 15 bullets to do. But I sent out like your easy combs, your soaps, and maybe waxes for them lighter colour cattle. And yeah, they flew me out to Rouge and we went over and the 15 cattle, there was out of the two different sales, there was KBS and the other company was there. I just can't think of the name of them, but there was kind of the two different companies. But the 15 bulls from KBS, the average was definitely the best. And we had champion and reserve on the day, and I think we won most of the classes on the day. But the people out there were just, they were taken back, and there was overtaking pictures of the soaps and the sprays, and they were really taken back by what we were doing over here. I suppose some of them had never been to Ireland or England and seen the way we do it.
It's indeed. I mean, I started in the grooming business long before you were born, probably, and trying to sell soaps and potions to those French guys, and there's none of it. They just a bit of water and a brush is all they do. So, but different type of showing, but different type of cattle as well. Would you say?
Yeah, they'd go for this more elevated type, this more breeder type, really, in fairness. And I suppose that's where the breed originated. So I suppose you can't really say they're doing it wrong, can you? They'll have this big loose female, whereas I suppose over here in Ireland and definitely in England they're gone more for this breed than your Carlisle bull, and maybe the size has come down a small bit in the females, hasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, but they're fanatical about it all the same. As you said, well, you said yourself, the breed comes from there, and some of the best limousines maybe still are over there. Would you say?
Oh, for definite, for definite. When you go out and see some of them big herds of cows over in France, we walked into one farm in particular, it's the Babaloo herd. Geez, the cows they're absolutely fantastic. They're these big, massive cows, like they're just and like the width and the size of these cows is just unreal. They're real proper limousine females that we were used to seeing 15 years ago. Like
Yeah, and a lot of them as well. They're big herds, aren't they? They're not just two or three. I mean, some of these guys have massive herds of limousines. Well,
well,
it's
even
all limousines.
what I was taken back by massively over there was these beef cows that they were showing to these maybe big high end restaurants, and they were making 25 and 30,000 for a cow that was going for slaughter.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
And they definitely had good tables of wine there because Limerick got mad bidding. But
No, no. Well, I've, as you know, I have a house over there and live over there quite a bit, and we do. But they eat as you said, old cows, the cull cows, 8 or 9 years old, and to them they said that's the best beef. And you'd say, how can that be? But then actually, when you go and sit down and eat some of that with the guys in the restaurants, it is very good beef. It's amazing.
it's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, we went out to a little restaurant out the road now, and actually the restaurant, the cows were eating outside the window. You were looking out the window, watching the cow stall inside their pens through this big glass, and I'm not sure the cows were happy with us eating their family, but we were quite happy eating and looking at them.
That and a good glass of red wine, as you said.
A
Yeah,
good glass of red wine then Randy down on top, which is very hard to beat French wine, isn't it?
it certainly is. It certainly is. And let's go back to your prowess in the show ring. A few folks have said you're a hard man to show against. I think you're always the first one in the ring. You always know what you're doing. You always know where the judge is, and you make sure you make sure you back your corner. And I've done my share of showing myself, and even I think you're pretty good at it, Cathal. And you think that's a gift, maybe, that you're better than everybody else, or is that just down to dedication?
And say I'm better than everyone else, but I suppose in the last couple of months I've been getting very, very good cattle put into my hands, and it's an absolute pleasure to be given the ropes by these people and they trust you with these expensive and top end cattle. But yeah, that's you mentioned something there about going into the ring first. I always like to be the first man into the ring, and it's a trade of mine, and I do, no matter what number you are in the ring or if they're trying to bring you in order, I'll still try and make my way into that ring first. So when the judge is waiting for everyone else, he can't take his eye off you, can he?
It's steward's nightmare. I've stewarded a fair few times, and there's anyone like you that's wanting to be in there first. But that's absolutely right. But it's all about that. I've shown cattle, and I've learned from a lot of Americans and various people, and it is about getting yourself noticed in that ring when there's a big crowd of in there, of animals in there, and
Well, the
yeah,
thing
you
about
seem
being
to do it.
first into the ring, Andy, if the judge is standing around waiting for everyone else and you're in the ring 3 or 4 minutes before everyone else, he can't take his eye off you. He has to stay looking at your animal, isn't he? So he's going to fight. Maybe he might find the faults, but if you have an animal that hasn't many faults, his eyes. It's very hard for him to take his eye off it when the rest of them come in.
It's very true, very true. As I said, you're a hard man to beat. You always, you a lot of youngsters look and learn from you, I'm sure, and say, as young handlers, you see some of these handlers there, and they can all take a look at you showing cattle. I think you certainly do handle them really well in the ring there, and losing isn't easy, I'm sure, and I don't suppose you like it any more than anybody else, but it's something we have to cope with as well, and that's another word for the youngsters really is to learn. And you don't always win everything, do you?
No, absolutely, and it's a big thing that's actually a big point to say there, Andy, because you're not going to win every day, and there's days that maybe you're entitled to win and you don't win, and but it's very most important to always just to put your hand to the person that does win the class and congratulate them or commiserate the person that's below you. And same as to the judge, you never open your mouth to a judge. I've often seen people giving out to judges and that, and that's not right. It's hard enough to get judges to do these jobs and that in the first place, and it isn't right to go abusing people that are just there at their own goodwill to do a bit of judging. And just because he doesn't like the animal doesn't mean the judge the next day won't like it. You could be up the next day.
Yeah, there you go. No, that's again good words, I think, and a good advice to youngsters that'll be listening to this. That yeah, the judge is always right, even when he's wrong, and he's never wrong, even when he's wrong. It's a bit like my wife, really. And
Oh, go away, yeah.
but you've got to learn to lose before you can get out there, and I think that's probably a good wise word there.
I think it's more important to learn to lose than it is to learn to win.
There you
It's
go.
you have to be a good loser as well as a good winner. But it's yeah, it is very important to take your beating as well as it is to enjoy your winnings.
My father would always say, "Win or lose, we'll have some booze," and I think that's a fair statement.
I think he's right. I think we all like to do that, whether we win or lose, Andy.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And just going back to the cattle, I said at the top of this podcast there, every time I see you, you seem to be on the right end of a damn good beast. And do you get to pick the cattle? Do you go when you go to somewhere? Do you say do you get to pick the show teams? Do you get involved in the ground? Let's say at Michael Shane's or wherever. Do you get to say, well, that's the animal that I want to take, or maybe that's the animal that he should take to that particular show? Do you get involved in the further back in that?
Yeah, well, certainly you'll be definitely in discussion of it, Andy. Yeah, and sometimes you go to places, and particularly in Mike's, I'd always pick. Well, maybe not pick the show team, but myself and Mike would definitely discuss it. And sometimes I might land down to Mike's, and we might clip something out, and it might have been on a sales team, and then that could be dragged into the show team. It mightn't be sold at all. And we actually had it happen. It was a couple of weeks ago. He had a heifer going away to sale, and I said, I think I want her for show next year, Mike. I says, does she really have to be sold? And she was taken back out of the sales team and she was put onto the show team. And I think we have a good one on our hands for next year again, Andy, for the extravaganza.
Excellent, excellent. No, that's good that you can. As I said, that shows your eye as a. It's the one thing about showing the animals, but it's about we're all in this breeding game, and you've been involved in breeding it through the family, as you said, and it shows you got your eye in there. And does that eye take you through to judging? Do you get to do a bit of that? Have they let you loose in that in the middle yet?
Yeah, I've done a bit of judging, and I suppose the thing about it is I won't be doing a lot of judging. If you're showing these cattle, you can't judge them as well, can you? So I wouldn't have done it. I won't do a lot of judging, but yes, I have done a few bits of judging in the past, and absolutely loved it, and always got on really well. And I think I had it right, but maybe I didn't. I picked what suited me anyway, Andy. Whether the people liked it or not, I put up what I liked.
There you go. And that I'm sure more of that as the young man that you are, I think more of that will happen. But as you said, it's about, to me, I always said when you're dressing cattle and showing cattle, you got to know what the animals, got to know what the animal needed to look like. And likewise, when you get on the other end of that, you see the bits maybe that the guys have hidden with the faults, and you see the good showman that's maybe bringing a beast out better than it's worth. And I think it's the gamekeeper and poacher scenario there, don't you?
Oh, certainly, Andy. And the thing about it is, with a lot of these cattle, you have to learn to find before you pick up a clippers. You have to find that animal's weaknesses first, and you have to try not show them weaknesses and hide them as best you can, and show these animals best points, isn't it?
That's exactly what it's about. I was going to say under that, and you're fairly handy with a set of clippers, as you said. You learnt from a few, but and you said a clipping demonstration, a couple of those for the Young Breeders Association, and passing that skills on, which is a great thing.
I might just give away all my tricks, Andy, but I definitely will teach anyone that wants to learn. Yeah, there's um, there's no problem teaching someone that wants to learn. It's someone that doesn't want to learn, and you're there trying to tell them you're wasting your time. But if people like to learn, and I definitely try to anyone anywhere I was ever asked to go and help with a YDP or show my hand at it, I definitely will go and help the kids. Yeah, it's definitely a big thing and a thing I would like to stay promoting or stay, I don't know, not me promoting, but definitely helping out in the YDPs and that. Definitely, if I could help them out, yeah, I definitely will stay always helping them out. It's
Brilliant.
nice to give back to what we learned before.
A gallant thing to do there, and be careful because there's a lot of people listening to this will be getting you round. You'll be like I used to do, go and do clipping demonstrations every other weekend until you're never at home. But I say you're never at home. You can't be at home anyway because I don't know how many shows you've done this year, but you seem to be just about everywhere. How many nights away from home have you been away showing cattle this year? Have you totaled it up?
Well, I tell you what, Andy, I've been away. I started in Carrick last Saturday, and we did Sunday and Monday in Carrick. I travelled from Carrick Monday night into Enniskillen to Leonard's, and we left Leonard's house at 4 o'clock and Tuesday morning to get to Allen's for the fat stock up there. I got back to Leonard's house late that night, and then we were on down to I was down to get photos of heifers for Lucky Days competitions with Kane Trainer, and we got the photos there, and I came on down the road then. Back and I'm working here in Kildare at the moment on the Ballym farm here in Burley. They surely heard the call of Louise Quinn.
Just a couple of weeks, but I say it's been like that pretty much the whole year and a few years for you. I
Ah,
think
yeah,
you're
Andy,
traveling a lot.
it has been a whirlwind year. It has been probably one of my best showing years, and definitely my best achievement for people I've been shown for. I've definitely had a really good run this year, and we've a lot of sashes taken.
You certainly have. You certainly have. To name a few, I mentioned Dr. Michael Sheehan there, of course, winning the extravaganza in Turles, and I was there, and I think he won it. Did he win the calf show there last year as well? He's had
Yeah, we won it the
Michael's had a
previous
good
year
run.
with Ludmore with Victorious, and we won it this year with Frances. But Frances was she's a babe, isn't she? She's a very pretty heifer.
Just came out and wanted to win that straight away, didn't she? She was looking like it, and I mentioned.
I think everyone knew as soon as she came into the ring in the early classes that there was your champion, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and I mentioned Shane's 29,000 Guinness Red Bull there. You're on the front of that as well, and then you talked about Carrick just now, and then just talk a little bit through. You and I had a chat before we went on the air here, just regarding the Carrick on Shannon Fat Stock show that was well, last weekend, 2 or 3 weeks ago anyway. Now, and broke another record there at Cathal.
Yeah, I was shown a limousine out of a blue cow, a little MVP heifer belonged to Derek Ford, and we went and we won a class with I think was there 80 or 100 calves in the class, and we came out first prize there, and she later on went on to be sold for 30,000 for Derek Ford and Johnny Burke. Is she an April-born heifer? She's a little superstar though. She's an absolutely beautiful heifer, but it's mad money for a calf too, isn't it?
Had you seen it before you got there?
Had I seen it before I got to the show?
Yeah.
No, I never seen her. No, I didn't see her. I landed the Carrick and I had seen her during the summer at shows and she had won an awful lot and you knew she was coming. She was going to come and she was going to be hard beat on the day. And then I also showed the Shirley champion on the day there. So we had a really good Carrick. We had a Shirley calf there from Mike Feeney and she was a young heifer again and she was Shirley champion. So we had a good Carrick. We had a good time.
Great, and a good turnout of people, a good turnout of cattle there. I know one or two of the Scottish boys came across this year and made an effort to
I
come and see it.
think
They all came back and said it was a fantastic show of stock.
Yeah, the Shirley heifer's actually gone across to Scotland. The Shirley champion that I showed, she's gone to Scotland anyway. Oh, there was a lot of Scotland. I think there could have been, was there 15 or 16 of them over? Yeah, great to see them over and always enjoyable lads to have a drink with, aren't they? But fierce knowledgeable cattlemen, like, and a lot of them boys too if you listen to them. But the crowds in Carrick this year they were outstanding. They were massive. It was the biggest I've ever seen it. The crowds were there were 7 and 8 people deep all around the ring watching the show. Like.
So for Donald McPherson was supposed to be heading over there. For some reason, neither of us got there. Otherwise, that was a party ready to go as well. But I know there was a lot of guys there, had a good time. And of course, the show was judged by a Scotsman by, you mentioned Drew Hislop earlier on. And Drew got stuck in there judging those cattle. Did he do a good job?
Yeah, he did a good job, to be fair to him. Yeah, I think everyone was happy. And whether he did a good job or bad job, once Drew was happy with his choices, that's most important. But Drew stuck, I think, he kind of stuck to a typical animal that Drew would like, and he stuck to a showbiz type. And that's what Drew normally goes for. He's a showman too, isn't he?
Yes, a showman, yeah, very much so. And just go on to, I mean, the 30,000 euro sounds a ridiculous price for a crossbred beast of any sort, but I'm not sure whether the destination of that animal will be probably showing and breeding, but the prize money, the difference, we were having this conversation, I was having this conversation the other night with Stuart Bett, had been over there, and saying that the prize money that you guys can win in the shows in the summer will justify the big money that's being paid for calves there in Ireland.
Yeah, absolutely. There's very very good prize money in the there's very good prize money in the commercial cattle, but that goes back to your show committees that are going out gathering this and getting their sponsors and all that, and credit to them too. But yeah, there is fantastic prize money in the commercial show scene in Ireland, and I remember there a couple of years ago I showed a bullock for Robert Mark McGivern in Cork, and I think he won over 12,000 euros on the show scene that summer.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this was a bullock that was a ton weight.
That certainly makes a hell of a difference, doesn't it? When you can do that, I think if you can get into Tullamore and these shows, they could be 2 or 3 thousand you win in one show, can you?
Yeah, he was actually a bullock. That was a bullock that came out of Wilson Peters, would you believe? And
Okay.
yeah, he won an awful lot of money here. He actually done he done really two really good show seasons on the circuit here. I think the bullock pulled in total over 16 or 17,000 euros, and he was one of the best bullocks I've ever showed in my life. He was just a fantastic bullock. He was a ton weight, and he was like a calf walking around the show ring. He moved so smooth. He was just a class beast.
And brilliant to see it when a ton weight getting a second bite, if you like, a second year, a third year maybe on the show, third or fourth year on the show season, which is great, and still keep bringing the money. That's fantastic to hear. And the calf, the 30,000 pound calf there, do you know where that's going? Is that going to head on to breeding? Will that hit the show circuit next year?
It's gone to Lucky Day competitions. It's a Northern Irish company. Kane Trainer's a lad there, and he purchased her for Lucky Days. And I think the plan is, I think she's going showing next year, but I'm not 100% sure. But it's a company bought her that are do these all these raffles and that. So
Okay.
maybe sometime down the line we might see her in a raffle, and everyone might get a chance to go out and buy a ticket for a couple of quid.
There you go. We get a shot at buying her back there. And although obviously they can't, well, I'm not sure they can go over. I suppose they can come back over to the UK. But no, that's brilliant that somebody else is going to get a chance at that. And the breeding behind her was has seemed to be a lot this year. A popular name, Dove Genetics, and Dove seem to have had the sires of pretty much most of the top fat cattle this time there. And what are they doing right?
Yeah, this calf in particular was out of a bull that Willie Spit would have bred, Millbrook D'Artagnan,
Okay.
and he was uh, he was just he's a really good calf. But it's fine saying that Dove is doing this all right and that, and which they probably are. But these boys that are breeding these cows and bringing out these cows that are breeding these calves are really doing a good job too, aren't they?
They are not an easy job, as I'm sure you know that. And if you get involved in that side and the carving side of it, I mean, I've had James Alexander, I wanted to on here, to be fair, talking about that. And for every one good cow, if you breed, there's a couple of three that don't come right, and some two that don't make it at all.
You're always looking for the golden prize, Andy, but the golden prize doesn't always come to you, does it?
No,
Doesn't always come. You just it's like a man told me one time: when you breed them, you take what you get. When you buy them, you buy what you want, Andy. So it might be just easier buy them than breed them.
that's exactly
So
what I.
credit to all these lads that are breeding these toppling calves.
We had Andrew Bishop on a couple of weeks ago, and he said exactly the same thing. I think he said him and Mike Alford had a discussion, and Andrew said he'd been trying to breed these good calves, and Mike said you're far better off paying three times for the mount rate and go and buy one rather than trying to breed them because it's not easy. Indeed.
Mike seems to do that, doesn't he?
He's able. He's able.
Mike seems to do that. To be fair to him, he's a
Talking of Mike,
capable
then
man.
I believe that you've been showing a few sheep as well. Is that a new thing for you? Is that you getting involved in showing the sheep now? Good to see you on your knees. Eh?
No, definitely not, Andy. Sheep just wouldn't be my go-to thing now. Mel and Mike I was forced into it, Andy. Um,
I've
as
got
Melvin told me,
photographic evidence. I've
when
got
you're with
photographic
Fox's
evidence.
Farm, you learn to do all these things, and but we did go and show them, and we had a bit of crack showing them, and we won showing them, so we must be handy at it as well, my Andy.
I think we're looking. I think everybody's looking out for seeing you going out there and starting winning in the sheep ring now. I reckon you've started something.
I don't know, Andy. I don't know when you see too much of that now, and you can mark my word on that one. But the only way you'll see that now again is if Mel Alford forces me into it.
She's very persuasive.
She is very persuasive. Yeah, she is very persuasive.
Uh,
She's very hard to say no to.
Indeed, indeed, and that's grand. We're getting towards the end of the year now. You mentioned by the time this goes out, it'll be getting towards Christmas time, and you're getting a bit of a rest in January. Or are you involved in getting the bulls ready for the February sales?
Yeah, sure. You'd be hoping to get a bit of a rest, but there's no rest for the wicked, as they say, Andy. And I suppose the sales in February don't be long coming around again, and you'll be getting all the bulls started to feed them again, won't you? And I suppose that starts now, really. And you want to get their hair right and have them washed and all that, and getting them all broken out for the February sales. So you don't get much of a break at this game, really, but it will be nice to get off for a week or two at Christmas time, anyway.
And you be back over to Stirling for the February bull sales?
We might go for a drink anyway. I don't know, have a lot to do over there, Andy, but I think we'll certainly go for a drink or two. It's quite an enjoyable place to go to, Stirling, isn't it?
Certainly is. Well, I'll be there as well. I think for the February sales anyway. So maybe we'll get that drink there together. And if you've got nothing else to do, that'll be dangerous.
Well, Andy, if you're buying a drink, I'll definitely drink it.
We'll have a drop of that French red wine there, Carl. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I really enjoyed your company when we were over there in Turles there, and we said we'd have a chat on the podcast. And I meant what I said. I have a lot of respect for the way you show your cattle and bring them out, and a lot of other people the same. So it's been a pleasure to chat to a man who knows what he's doing.
Thank you very much, Andy, and thank you so much for having me on. It has been an absolute pleasure to come on and have a chat with you, and hopefully we'll get that drink in Stirling.
Perfect. Well, you keep going, keep
Right.
doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Andy. All the
Right.
best. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Cheers, innit? Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Top Lines and Tails. And as always, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Harbro, for their continued support. And if you've got animals inside this winter, then I hope that Harbro is helping you through with your feed requirements there. And even halfway through the winter, if the feed that you're using isn't Harbro and you decide you might want to change there, get in touch with your Harbro representative and find out how they can help you with the dietary requirements for all your animals there. And of course, those great feed buckets too. So look out Harbro on the internet or get in touch with your local representative to see how they can help you. And while you're there on the internet, don't forget to look out the Top Lines and Tails Facebook community there. Join in that one and you'll find pictures and other things to back up this and previous episodes.